The man who spent 40 years in the wrong cell. March 15th, 2018, 6:47 a.m. An old man stands at the iron gates of Mansfield Correctional Institution, his hands trembling as a guard unlocks the final barrier between him and freedom. His name is Robert DeLeon. He's 63 years old. He's about to take his first step as a free man in exactly 40 years, 2 months, and 17 days. But here's what makes this moment absolutely devastating. Robert DeLeon never should have been here in the first place. He was innocent. The state knew it. And for 4 decades, nobody did a damn thing about it. This is the story of how a single piece of misfiled paperwork, a lazy detective, and a broken system stole the entire adult life of an innocent man. How Robert DeLeon entered prison at 23 years old for a murder he didn't commit and came out at 63, having missed his children growing up, his mother's funeral, the birth of his grandchildren, and nearly half a century of freedom. The man who actually committed the crime? He died free in 2003, never spending a single day behind bars. What you're about to hear isn't just one man's tragedy. It's a window into how easily the American justice system can destroy an innocent life, and how difficult it is to stop that machine once it starts rolling. You'll discover the exact moment the system failed Robert, the people who could have saved him but didn't, and the shocking number of others just like him still sitting in cells right now, screaming into the void. Timestamp 1:15, CTA number 1. If you want to understand how this happened and why it could happen to anyone, hit that subscribe button right now. Because what comes next will change how you see justice forever. December 3rd, 1977, 7:15 a.m. Robert DeLeon clocks into his shift at the Ford River Rouge complex in Dearborn, Michigan. He's 23 years old, a newlywed with a pregnant wife named Michelle. He works the assembly line, pulling double shifts whenever he can because there's a baby coming in March. His co-workers call him Bobby D. He's known for bringing homemade sandwiches his wife makes and sharing them during lunch breaks. Robert's dream is simple. Save enough for a down payment on a house in a better neighborhood. Maybe get his kid into a good school. The American dream, working class edition. He has exactly 42 days of freedom left. January 14th, 1978, 11:43 p.m. Across town, a convenience store clerk named Marcus Webb is shot twice during an armed robbery at Lou's Market on East Grand Boulevard. The shooter takes $237 from the register and Marcus's wallet. Marcus dies before the ambulance arrives. He's 19 years old. The actual killer's name is Terrence T-Bone Matthews, a 28-year-old with a rap sheet including 2 prior armed robberies. He fires the shots, pockets the money, and disappears into the Detroit night. But Terrence Matthews isn't who the police are looking for, because 3 hours earlier, at 8:30 p.m., Robert DeLeon had stopped at that same convenience store to buy cigarettes and a lottery ticket. Marcus Webb rang him up. A security camera caught the transaction. That grainy footage would destroy Robert's life. January 16th, 1978, 5:52 a.m. Robert is asleep next to his pregnant wife when Detroit PD pounds on his door. Detective Frank Kozlowski has a warrant for his arrest. The charge, first-degree murder. Robert is confused, terrified. He tells them he was at Lou's Market that night, but at 8:30 p.m., not midnight. He bought cigarettes. He has the receipt. He went straight home afterward. His wife confirms it. Their neighbor, Mrs. Chun, saw him arrive home at 9:15 p.m. Detective Kozlowski doesn't care about any of that. Save it for your lawyer, he says, clicking the handcuffs shut. Robert DeLeon has never been arrested before. He doesn't understand what's happening. As police shove him into the back of the cruiser, Michelle stands on their front porch in her nightgown, 8 months pregnant, screaming his name. He'll never sleep in that house again. January 17th, 1978, 2:30 p.m. Here's what Detective Kozlowski has. Security footage showing a black male, approximately 6 feet tall, athletic build, purchasing items at Lou's Market. The timestamp reads 8:32 p.m. The shooting occurred at 11:43 p.m., 3 hours apart. But Kozlowski is under pressure. The mayor wants the murder solved. Marcus Webb's family is crying on the evening news. The detective has 15 other open cases on his desk. So when he sees Robert DeLeon on that security footage, same height, same build, wearing a dark jacket, he makes a choice. He ignores the timestamp. He ignores the witness statements from Robert's wife and neighbor. He ignores the fact that the actual shooter, according to the store owner who survived by hiding in the back room, had a distinctive teardrop tattoo under his right eye. Robert has no tattoos. At 2:47 p.m., Kozlowski types up his report. Suspect positively identified on security footage at scene of crime. The word time never appears in the document. June 12, 1978, 9 a.m. Robert's trial begins. His court-appointed attorney, Gerald Simmons, is 64 years old and handling 37 cases simultaneously. He spent maybe 4 hours total preparing Robert's defense. The prosecution's case is thin but dramatic. They play the security footage on a rolling TV card. The timestamp, the crucial detail that would prove Robert's innocence, has been conveniently cropped from the video shown to the jury. The prosecutor, Assistant DA Richard Holbrook, argues that Robert is clearly visible in the store around the time of the murder. Around the time, not the time. The distinction matters. Simmons objects weakly. The judge, Harold Morrison, overrules it. Robert's alibi witnesses, Michelle and Mrs. Chun, testify that he was home by 9:15 p.m. But Holbrook destroys their credibility. Of course his pregnant wife would lie for him, he tells the jury. Of course his neighbor, who's known the family for years, would protect him. The jury deliberates for 6 hours. June 19, 1978, 4:17 p.m. Guilty on all counts. July 8, 1978, 10:30 a.m. Judge Morrison sentences Robert DeLeon to life in prison without the possibility of parole for 40 years. Robert stands in his orange jumpsuit, hands cuffed behind his back. Michelle is in the gallery, 9 months pregnant, sobbing. His mother clutches a rosary. Robert turns to them and mouths, "I didn't do this." Nobody listens. At 2:15 p.m., Robert is transported to Michigan State Prison in Jackson. During the 3-hour drive, shackled in the back of a van, he stares out the barred window at the world passing by. Kids playing basketball. A couple walking their dog. A man washing his car in a driveway. Normal life. Life he'll never have again. That night at 8:47 p.m., Robert lies on a concrete bunk in cell block D, Unit 7, cell 42. Through the narrow window, he can see a sliver of stars. His daughter will be born in 3 weeks. He'll meet her for the first time in a prison visiting room, holding her through plexiglass. 40 years starts now. July 8, 1979, 11 a.m. Robert has been in prison for exactly 1 year. His daughter, Jasmine, just celebrated her first birthday. Michelle brought her to visit yesterday. Jasmine doesn't know who Robert is. She cried when Michelle tried to hand her to him through the visitor's barrier. Robert has filed his first appeal. He wrote most of it himself in the prison library because Gerald Simmons retired 2 months after the trial, and no one took over his case. The 47-page document argues that the security footage timestamp proves his innocence, that his alibi witnesses were credible, that Detective Kozlowski ignored exculpatory evidence. The appeal sits on a clerk's desk in the Michigan Court of Appeals. It will sit there for 11 months before anyone reads it. Robert spends his days working in the prison laundry, washing sheets and uniforms for 14 cents an hour. At night, he lies awake calculating. If he lives to be 63, he'll be eligible for parole. Jasmine will be 40 years old. He's starting to understand what life sentence really means. March 23, 1981, 3:15 p.m. In a basement filing room at Detroit Police Headquarters, a clerk named Dorothy Washington is cataloging old case files. She opens the Marcus Webb murder file, case hashtag 78-0142, and finds something that makes her stop cold. A police report dated January 15, 1978, written by Officer James Brennan, who responded to the crime scene. The report states, store owner Lou Castellano, survivor of robbery, describes shooter as black male, late 20s, approximately 6 feet 2 inches, teardrop tattoo beneath right eye, wearing red jacket and black jeans. Suspect fled eastbound on Grand Boulevard at approximately 11:47 p.m. Red jacket, teardrop tattoo, details that don't match Robert DeLeon at all. This report was never presented at trial. It should have been in the prosecutor's disclosure file. It wasn't. Dorothy stares at the document. She knows Robert DeLeon was convicted of this murder. She remembers the case. She realizes this report could exonerate him. At 3:42 p.m., she walks the document to her supervisor, Lieutenant Carl Harris. He reads it, nods slowly. File it with the closed cases, he says. Convictions final. Nothing we can do now. Dorothy files it in Box 847, Section J. It will stay there for 28 years. June 3, 1981. 2 p.m. Robert receives a single-page letter in his cell. His first appeal has been denied. The Michigan Court of Appeals ruling is brief. Appellant's claims of insufficient evidence are without merit. The jury heard testimony from alibi witnesses and determined them not credible. Security footage placing defendant at scene of crime near time of offense, combined with eyewitness testimony, supports conviction. Appeal denied. Near time of offense. Not at the time. They're using the same linguistic trick the prosecutor used. Robert reads the letter 17 times. He's been in prison for 3 years now. Michelle's visits have become less frequent. She's working 2 jobs to support Jasmine. His mother's health is declining. At 9:30 p.m., Robert's cellmate, a man named Marcus, coincidentally the same name as the victim, asks him what's wrong. They denied my appeal, Robert says. Marcus, serving 15 years for armed robbery, shakes his head. Brother, let me tell you something about the system. Once they lock that cage, they don't like admitting they locked up the wrong animal. You could have Jesus Christ himself come down and testify you're innocent, and they'd still say no. Robert will remember those words for the next 37 years. September 14th, 1983. 10:45 a.m. Robert files his second appeal. Denied, April 1984. November 2nd, 1985. He files his third appeal, this time with help from a jailhouse lawyer named Thomas Wright. Denied, January 1986. February 18th, 1987. Fourth appeal. Denied, denied, denied. The pattern is suffocating. Every appeal takes months to prepare, costs money Robert doesn't have, and dies in a form letter from a court clerk who's never met him, never looked him in the eye, never heard the desperation in his voice. July 8, 1988. Robert's 10th anniversary in prison. Michelle stopped visiting 2 years ago. She's met someone new, a man named David who coaches Jasmine's softball team, who's there for parent-teacher conferences, who sleeps in the bed that should be Robert's. Michelle sends a letter explaining that she's filing for divorce. She's sorry. She's so sorry. But Jasmine needs a father who's actually there. Robert sits in his cell and rereads the letter until the words blur. At 11:58 p.m., he makes a decision. He'll never stop fighting, even if it takes forever, even if he dies here. Someone, someday, will listen. April 7th, 1992, 9:20 a.m. In an evidence locker at Detroit Police Headquarters, there's a box labeled Webb, Marcus, case hashtag 78-0142 closed. Inside that box, the murder weapon, a .38 revolver recovered from a pawn shop 3 months after the crime. Ballistics confirmed it was the gun that killed Marcus Webb. The gun has fingerprints on it. Those prints were run through the system in June 1978. They matched a man named Terrence Matthews, a known criminal with priors for armed robbery. Matthews died in a car accident in 2003, never arrested for Marcus Webb's murder. Detective Kozlowski saw this fingerprint report in 1978. He knew the prints didn't match Robert DeLeon. He buried the report because he'd already arrested Robert, already gotten his confession. No, wait. Robert never confessed. Kozlowski had gotten his suspect. Admitting the prints didn't match would mean starting over, looking incompetent, letting the mayor down. So he filed the report in the evidence box and listed it as inconclusive. That's the word that sealed Robert's fate. Inconclusive. The gun sits in the evidence locker. Robert sits in his cell. The real killer's prints are right there, waiting to speak for him. No one's listening. August 19th, 1995, 2:30 p.m. A prisoner named Eugene Parker is dying of liver cancer in a prison medical ward. Gene was a low-level enforcer for a Detroit crime family, serving 25 years for racketeering. He's 56 years old and has maybe 3 months to live. Gene knows Terrence Matthews. They ran in the same circles in the 70s. And Gene knows something that's been eating at him for years. At 3:15 p.m., Gene writes a letter to the Wayne County Prosecutor's Office. My name is Eugene Parker, inmate number 84729. I'm writing to tell you that Terrence Matthews confessed to me in 1981 that he killed Marcus Webb in that convenience store robbery in January 1978. He told me he got away with it because some other guy took the fall. T-Bone laughed about it, said the cops were too stupid to check the timestamps on the security footage. He showed me the wallet he took off Webb, still had his ID in it. I kept quiet because that's the code. But I'm dying now, and I can't take this to hell with me. The man you got locked up for this, Robert DeLeon, he's innocent. T-Bone did it. The letter is received on August 25th, 1995. A paralegal reads it, notes it in the file, and marks it as uncorroborated hearsay from convicted felon, insufficient for reopening closed case. Gene Parker dies on November 3rd, 1995. His confession dies with him. Robert has now been in prison for 17 years for a crime he didn't commit, and the evidence that could free him keeps getting buried. If you want to see whether justice finally catches up to the truth, hit subscribe right now, because what happens next will make you question everything you thought you knew about the system. December 25th, 1993, 11 a.m. Robert spends Christmas in the prison cafeteria. His daughter Jasmine is 15 years old. She hasn't visited in 3 years. Michelle remarried. Robert's mother had a stroke and can't travel. He eats mystery meat and powdered mashed potatoes while a corrections officer plays Silent Night on a radio. March 8th, 1998. Robert's mother dies. He requests permission to attend her funeral. Denied due to the severity of his conviction. He sits in his cell during the service, 200 miles away, and whispers the Our Father while other inmates play cards and watch TV. July 8th, 2003. Robert's 25th anniversary in prison. He's 48 years old now. His hair is gray. He has high blood pressure and arthritis in his hands from decades of prison labor. He's been moved to 3 different facilities. He's lost count of how many cellmates he's had. His case file sits in a storage facility in Lansing, Michigan. Forgotten. Gathering dust. Robert DeLeon has become what the system does best. He's disappeared. Not dead, not free. Just erased from the world while still breathing. 25 years gone. 15 more to go before parole eligibility. If he survives that long. May 17th, 2005. 5:30 a.m. Robert's alarm is the sound of a corrections officer banging a baton on cell bars. He's been waking up to this sound for 27 years. He can't remember what it's like to wake up naturally. 6 a.m. Breakfast. Watery oatmeal and coffee that tastes like rust. 7:30 a.m. Work detail. Robert cleans toilets in cell block C. It's better than the laundry. At least he works alone. 12 p.m. Lunch. Bologna sandwich. Every Tuesday for 27 years. 1 p.m. Yard time. Robert walks the perimeter. 43 laps equals 1 mile. He knows because he counted once in 1987 and the measurement hasn't changed. 3 p.m. Back to his cell. He reads. Mostly history books. He's educated himself in here. Learned about the Civil War, World War II, the Civil Rights Movement. An entire undergraduate education from a prison library. 5:30 p.m. Dinner. Unidentifiable meat, green beans from a can, bread. 6 p.m. Free time in the common area. Robert doesn't socialize much. He writes letters. He's written 1,247 letters to lawyers, advocacy groups, journalists. He's received 83 responses. None helpful. 9 p.m. Lockdown. Lights out. Robert lies in the dark and thinks about Jasmine. She'd be 27 now. Does she ever think about him? March 3rd, 2007. 2 p.m. Robert receives a letter he's been expecting but dreading for years. It's from Jasmine. She's 29 now, married, pregnant with her first child. The letter is 3 paragraphs long. Dear Robert, I'm writing to tell you that I'm having a baby in July. A boy. We're naming him Marcus, after my stepfather who raised me. I think you should know that while I understand you're my biological father, David is my dad. He's the one who taught me to ride a bike, helped me with homework, walked me down the aisle at my wedding. I don't remember you. I don't know you. I've decided it's better if we don't have contact anymore. It's too complicated to explain to my son why his grandfather is in prison for murder. I hope you understand. I wish you well. Jasmine. Robert reads the letter once, folds it carefully, places it in a shoebox under his bunk where he keeps every letter he's ever received. At 9:30 p.m., his cellmate, a young guy named DeLeon, in for drug trafficking, asks if he's okay. My daughter's having a baby, Robert says. I'm going to be a grandfather. That's great, man. Congratulations. She doesn't want me in his life. DeLeon doesn't know what to say to that. Neither does Robert. August 12, 2010, 3:45 p.m. Robert sits across a chessboard from William Doc Morrison, a 67-year-old former pharmacist serving 20 years for embezzlement. Doc's been inside for 12 years. They've been playing chess together for 8. Checkmate, Doc says, moving his queen. Robert studies the board, sighs, tips over his king. You're distracted today, Doc observes. Parole eligibility in 8 years, Robert says. If I'm still alive. If they grant it, you'll make it. You're the healthiest 55-year-old in this place. Robert laughs bitterly. Healthy and innocent. A lot of good it does me. Doc resets the chess pieces. I tell you my theory about this place, Bobby. Prison isn't designed to rehabilitate. It's designed to forget. Society puts us in here and then never thinks about us again. We become ghosts. I've been a ghost for 32 years. But ghosts can't die, and you're too stubborn to let them erase you completely. It's the kindest thing anyone's said to Robert in years. He almost cries. Instead, he moves a pawn forward and says, Your move, old man. Doc's the closest thing Robert has to family now. An embezzler who believes in his innocence more than his own daughter does. That's what 32 years in the wrong cell does to a man. September 7th, 2012, 10:15 a.m. Sarah Chun is 28 years old, fresh out of law school, and working for the Michigan Innocence Project. She's been assigned to review old cases that might warrant reinvestigation. She's 3 months into the job and already drowning in hopeless files. At 10:47 a.m., she opens case file hashtag 78-0142. People versus Robert DeLeon. She reads the trial transcript, the weak evidence, the security footage with a mysteriously cropped timestamp, the alibi witnesses dismissed by the prosecution, the absence of any physical evidence linking Robert to the crime. At 2:30 p.m., she finds the appeal denials. 6 of them, all form letters. At 4:15 p.m., she finds something that makes her heart stop. A digitized police report dated January 15th, 1978, describing a suspect with a teardrop tattoo and red jacket. Details that don't match Robert DeLeon. This report was never presented at trial. Sarah stares at her computer screen. She's been a lawyer for 4 months. She's never won a case. But she's looking at what might be the most obvious wrongful conviction she's ever seen. At 5:02 p.m., she picks up the phone and calls Mansfield Correctional Institution. I need to schedule a visit with inmate Robert DeLeon, she says. It's the phone call that will change everything. October 3rd, 2012, 1 p.m. Robert shuffles into the visiting room in his orange jumpsuit. He's 57 years old. He's been in prison for 34 years. He's met with lawyers before, law students, public defenders, advocates. They all leave promising to help. Then he never hears from them again. Sarah Chun sits across from him, a manila folder thick with documents in front of her. Mr. DeLeon, my name is Sarah Chun. I'm with the Michigan Innocence Project. I've reviewed your case, and I believe you were wrongfully convicted. Robert's heard this before, too. He doesn't let himself hope. Ma'am, I appreciate you coming, but I've been fighting this for 34 years. 6 appeals denied. Nobody cares. Sarah opens the folder and slides a document across the table. It's the police report describing the teardrop tattoo. This report was never presented at your trial. It directly contradicts the prosecution's case. That's called a Brady violation, prosecutorial misconduct. It's grounds for overturning your conviction. Robert stares at the document. His hands are shaking. "How long have you known about this?" he whispers. "I found it 2 weeks ago. It's been in the file this whole time." "Yes." Robert closes his eyes. 34 years. The evidence was there the entire time. "Can you get me out?" Sarah meets his gaze. "I'm going to try. I promise you, Mr. DeLeon, I'm going to fight like hell." For the first time in decades, Robert lets himself hope. March 18th, 2013, 9 a.m. Sarah files a motion for post-conviction relief in Wayne County Circuit Court. She's included the Brady report, affidavits from alibi witnesses, analysis of the security footage timestamp, and a forensic report proving the fingerprints on the murder weapon don't match Robert. The Wayne County Prosecutor's Office has 60 days to respond. They take 147 days. July 12, 2013, 4:37 p.m. Sarah receives the prosecution's response. It's 89 pages of legal jargon that boils down to one argument. Too much time has passed. The conviction is final. Defendant had opportunities to raise these issues on appeal and failed to do so. They're not arguing Robert is guilty. They're arguing it's too late to prove he's innocent. Sarah spends the next 6 months fighting through procedural roadblocks. Every motion she files is countered with a motion to dismiss. Every piece of evidence she presents is met with inadmissible due to procedural default. November 5th, 2013. She gets a call from an assistant prosecutor named Michael Torres. "Ms. Chun, off the record, you're probably right about DeLeon, but my boss has been here 30 years. Admitting we convicted an innocent man? That's political suicide. We're going to fight you on this until we can't anymore." Sarah hangs up and stares at her phone. The system isn't interested in truth. It's interested in self-preservation. December 25th, 2014, 11 a.m. Robert's 37th Christmas in prison. Sarah visits him with an update. The court has agreed to an evidentiary hearing. It's scheduled for March 2015. Maybe, just maybe, a judge will finally listen. March 19th, 2015, 10 a.m. The hearing. Sarah presents her evidence. The prosecution argues procedural technicalities. Judge Rebecca Holland takes the matter under advisement. 8 months pass. November 2nd, 2015. Judge Holland issues her ruling. While the court is troubled by certain aspects of this case, the defendant has failed to meet the burden of proof required for post-conviction relief. Motion denied. Robert is devastated. Sarah is furious. "We appeal," she tells him. "We don't stop." January 2016. Appeal filed with the Michigan Court of Appeals. September 2016. Oral arguments. March 2017. Denied again. July 2017. Sarah files with the Michigan Supreme Court. It's the last chance. Robert is 62 years old now. His parole eligibility date is approaching, July 8th, 2018. 40 years to the day after he entered prison. December 15th, 2017. 3:47 p.m. Sarah's phone rings. It's the Michigan Supreme Court clerk. "Ms. Chun, the court has agreed to hear DeLeon's case. Oral argument scheduled for February 2018. Sarah cries. She actually cries. Then she calls the prison. "Robert, we got the hearing. This is it. This is our shot. After 39 years, the fight is finally at the finish line." February 22nd, 2018, 10 a.m. The Michigan Supreme Court chambers are imposing. Dark wood, high ceilings, 7 justices in black robes. Robert isn't allowed to attend. He sits in his cell, 90 miles away, waiting. Sarah stands at the lectern. She has 20 minutes to convince the state's highest court that Robert DeLeon deserves freedom. "Your Honors, this case represents a fundamental failure of justice. Robert DeLeon was convicted based on security footage that the prosecution misrepresented by cropping the timestamp. A police report describing a suspect who doesn't match Mr. DeLeon was deliberately withheld from the defense. Fingerprints on the murder weapon match a known criminal, not my client. And a dying man's confession corroborating the real killer's identity was ignored. Justice Patricia Coleman interrupts. Ms. Chun, why didn't trial counsel raise these issues? Because he didn't know about them, Your Honor. The prosecution hid the evidence. That's the definition of a Brady violation. The Assistant Attorney General argues that procedural rules prevent reviewing the case at this stage. That Robert should have raised these issues decades ago. Justice Coleman isn't buying it. How could he raise issues about evidence he didn't know existed because the prosecution concealed it? That's circular reasoning, counsel. The hearing lasts 97 minutes. At 11:37 a.m., the justices retire to deliberate. Robert waits. Sarah waits. The truth waits. 3 weeks later, the decision comes down. March 8, 2018, 2:15 p.m. Robert is mopping the floor in cell block C when a guard approaches. DeLeon, warden wants to see you. Robert's heart drops. This is never good news. At 2:32 p.m., he enters the warden's office. Warden Phillips sits behind his desk, expressionless. Sit down, DeLeon. Robert sits. I just got a call from the Attorney General's office. The Michigan Supreme Court issued a ruling in your case this morning. Robert can't breathe. Your conviction has been vacated. The court found that the prosecution's failure to disclose exculpatory evidence violated your constitutional rights. They've ordered your immediate release. The words don't make sense at first. Robert's brain won't process them. On what? You're being released. Today, the state is not retrying you. After 40 years, you're going home. Robert's vision blurs. He's not a crier. He hasn't cried since 1998 when his mother died. But right now, sitting in the warden's office, he breaks down completely. 40 years. 40 years of screaming into the void that he was innocent. And finally, someone listened. At 3 p.m., Sarah arrives at the prison. She's crying too. They hug through the barrier in the visiting room. You did it, Robert whispers. You actually did it. No, Mr. DeLeon. You did it. You never gave up. Tomorrow morning, Robert walks free. March 15th, 2018, 6:47 a.m. Robert DeLeon stands at the gates of Mansfield Correctional Institution in clothes that don't fit him, donated by a church group. He's holding a plastic bag with his belongings. Letters from his mother, photos of Jasmine as a child, the chest set Doc gave him before he was paroled in 2016. The guard unlocks the gate. It swings open. Robert doesn't move at first. He's forgotten how to walk through an unlocked door without permission. Sarah is waiting outside. So are news cameras. The story's gone national. Man exonerated after 40 years in prison for crime he didn't commit. Robert takes his first step, then another. Then he's through the gate, and it's real, he's actually free. The sunlight is overwhelming. It's been 40 years since he felt sunshine without bars in the way. The air smells different, like spring, like freedom, like possibility. A reporter shouts, Mr. DeLeon, how does it feel to be free? Robert turns to the camera. His voice cracks when he speaks. It feels like waking up from a nightmare. Except the nightmare was real, and it lasted 40 years, and I can't get those years back. But I'm alive. I'm free. And I'm grateful. Sarah drives him to a halfway house in Detroit where he'll live temporarily. In the car, Robert stares out the window at the world he doesn't recognize. Everything's changed. Cell phones, the internet, electric cars. He's a 63-year-old man with no job skills, no home, no family. But he's free. March 20th, 2018, 9:30 a.m. Robert's first trip to a grocery store in 40 years. Sarah accompanies him because he's terrified of going alone. The store is overwhelming. Self-checkout machines, touchscreens, hundreds of yoga options. In prison, you ate what they gave you. Here, there are choices everywhere. How do people decide? He asks Sarah, staring at the cereal aisle. She laughs gently. You just pick what looks good. Robert chooses Cheerios. It's what he ate before prison. Some things shouldn't change. March 22nd, 2018, 3:15 p.m. Sarah helps Robert open a bank account. The teller asks for his ID. His driver's license expired in 1978. He has to explain why he doesn't have a work history for the past 40 years. I was incarcerated, he says quietly. The teller's face changes. She processes his information faster after that, avoiding eye contact. March 24th, 2018, 11 a.m. Robert tries using a smartphone for the first time. Sarah bought him a basic model and is teaching him how it works. You can video call people, she explains. See them while you talk. Like the Jetsons, Robert says. Sarah has no idea what he's talking about. The cultural references he knows stopped in 1978. That night, at 10:47 p.m., Robert lies in his bed at the halfway house, the first real bed he's slept in since 1978, and realizes something terrifying. He doesn't know how to be free. Prison gave him structure. Out here, there's nothing but possibility. And he's lost. September 15th, 2018, 7 a.m. Robert wakes up in his small studio apartment in Detroit. He's been free for 6 months. He has a job at a community center, helping formerly incarcerated people reintegrate into society. The irony isn't lost on him. He's learning to use a computer. He's learning to drive again. Sarah's been giving him lessons. He's learning to exist in a world that moved on without him. At 11:30 a.m., he gets a phone call from a number he doesn't recognize. Hello. Is this Robert DeLeon? Yes. This is Jasmine. Robert's heart stops. He hasn't spoken to his daughter since before his release. She didn't attend his exoneration hearing. Jasmine, he breathes. I saw you on the news. The story about your release. I didn't know you were innocent. My whole life, I thought you were a murderer. David, my stepdad, he told me you killed someone. I grew up ashamed of you. I understand, Robert says, even though it breaks him. I have a son, Marcus. He's 11 now. He's been asking about you, about his grandfather. I told him I'd think about it. There's a long silence. Would you like to meet him? Jasmine asks. Robert's crying, more than anything in the world. Sunday, 2 p.m. There's a park near Belle Isle. Do you know it? I'll find it. Okay. See you Sunday, Robert. She hangs up. Robert sits in his apartment and sobs. 40 years. And finally, a chance at family. November 8th, 2018, 10 a.m. The Michigan House Judiciary Committee holds a hearing on Robert DeLeon's wrongful conviction. Sarah testifies. Robert testifies. The committee wants answers. Who's responsible? Who's accountable? Detective Frank Kozlowski retired in 1999. He died in 2012. He'll never answer for burying evidence. Prosecutor Richard Holbrook became a judge in 1987. He retired in 2015 with full pension. He refuses to comment on the case, citing judicial ethics. The clerk who filed away the exculpatory police report, Dorothy Washington, retired in 2003. She's 79 years old now, living in Florida. A reporter tracked her down. I was just following orders, she said. I thought about that file sometimes over the years. But what could I do? I was just a clerk. No one is prosecuted. No one is disciplined. No one loses their pension or their reputation. The system that destroyed Robert's life faces no consequences. But there is money. The state of Michigan offers Robert a compensation package. $50,000 for every year of wrongful imprisonment. $2 million. At 3:30 p.m., a reporter asks Robert if the money makes up for what he lost. You can't put a price on 40 years of freedom, Robert says. But it's something. It helps. The real compensation, though, is what happened last Sunday at the park, when Robert met his grandson Marcus for the first time. When the 11-year-old boy hugged him and said, "Grandpa, I'm glad you're home." That's worth more than any amount of money. Today, 2:30 p.m., Robert DeLeon is 69 years old now. He's been free for 6 years. He works full-time for the Michigan Innocence Project, helping other wrongfully convicted people fight for their freedom. He's reconciled with Jasmine. She visits every Sunday with Marcus. They're building something, not what they could have had, but something new, something real. Robert gives talks at law schools and community centers. He tells his story so others will understand how fragile justice really is. The system isn't designed to admit mistakes, he tells audiences. Every judge, every prosecutor, every clerk who touches a case wants to believe they got it right. Because admitting error means admitting they destroyed a life. It's easier to keep the machine running than to stop it and look inside. Studies show there are potentially thousands of innocent people in American prisons right now, sitting in cells, screaming that they didn't do it, while the world ignores them. Robert knows their names. He writes to them. He fights for them, because he knows what it's like to be buried alive by the system. To watch decades slip away while the evidence of your innocence sits in a box, gathering dust. At 8 p.m. tonight, Robert will have dinner with Jasmine and Marcus. They'll eat at a restaurant Robert's never heard of, and Marcus will show him a video on TikTok, whatever that is, and Jasmine will laugh at her father's confusion with technology. And Robert will be grateful for every single second, because he knows exactly what freedom costs. He paid for it with 40 years of his life. Robert DeLeon's story is just one of thousands. Right now, innocent people are sitting in cells, waiting for someone to listen. If you want to hear more stories like this, stories of justice denied and lives destroyed by a broken system, subscribe to this channel. Next week, I'll tell you about a woman who spent 25 years on death row for a murder that never actually happened. Hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you in the next video.